What is up? Who is ready for potentially the worst pay-per-view predictions in history? This should be a fun pay-per-view to talk about because I'm really not looking forward to the thing. First and foremost, I will not be home to even watch Payback this Sunday. I will have to work. I'll be keeping my eye on it on my phone on the WWE Network and maybe eyeballing Twitter as well to see some of your reactions to the show, but unfortunately I will not be watching it live. So after today's commentary, you can probably expect me next after Monday Night Raw. I seriously doubt I'll come up and do any sort of Payback reaction video unless something really crazy takes place. I doubt it will, but if it does, I might come up and briefly talk about it. Otherwise, I'll wait till after Raw passes and probably do a commentary on Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. So that's what lies ahead for the future. As far as what lies ahead for this commentary, I'm going to talk briefly about last Monday night's Raw. The show's a couple of days old now. It was the go-home show to Payback, so I'll get into a little bit about that. Talk a little bit in detail about some of the major angles and things like that. I'll also be touching on, of course, my Payback predictions, and they are kind of crazy. When I was writing down the matches, trying to figure out the winners, I've got an awful lot of heels picked to win here, and there is a very good chance that I could potentially get every single one of these matches wrong except for one. There's only one match on the whole pay-per-view that I think is an absolute sure thing. The rest of them are all fucking toss-ups, which is really just another reason why I don't like some of these throwaway pay-per-views. I think they can eliminate some of these. Speaking of elimination, yes, I will talk about the Chamber returning in 2 fucking weeks. Not happy about that at all. It's bad enough that Payback here in just a couple of days is a throwaway pay-per-view. You're going to have another one right after that. It's just too much. It's absolutely too much, which is the reason why I think I can't predict any of these matches, because a lot of them are just thrown together. A lot of these feuds haven't even lasted so long, with the exception of 1 or 2. So it's hard to figure out what the hell they're going to do. But in addition to my Payback predictions, I'll also talk about the E60 show the ESPN did on the WWE just a few days ago. Well, that was great. A lot of people have also wanted me to talk about Deflate-Gate, which I will, and I had a chance encounter with Nikki Bella at the airport a few days ago, and that I was tweeting about. Some of you might have saw that, and I'll get into what happened there as well. So let's just quickly start off with last Monday's Raw. We kind of knew what they were going to do. The Raw previously was a great Raw from Montreal. I'm still flabbergasted by how good that show was, so I knew there was no way that this week's Monday Night Raw would even come close to following that. But just to touch on a few things that did take place on the show, we knew the show was going to be centered around The Authority and Seth Rollins and Kane and the other 3 participants in the main event of Payback. Triple H also returned on Raw to come out there and try to smooth things over between Kane and Seth Rollins, even giving Kane an ultimatum. You better pray that Seth Rollins comes out of this match as WWE Champion, because if he does not, it is all your fault, because Kane's the one that set up this whole debacle with Seth Rollins being in a 4-way. They also announced that the main event would be Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton, which you knew the minute that match was announced, it's going to be a no decision, and there's going to be a brawl between the 4 participants in the main event to end the show, and that's exactly what happened. Dean Ambrose, once again, for like the second week in a row, stood there looking pretty strong at the end, so I like what they're doing for him. I like the fact that, even though this is a throwaway pay-per-view and kind of a throwaway match, something that they're just throwing together to give Seth Rollins, title defenses to win, in the next couple of months, the fact that Dean Ambrose is inserted into this, and he's done feuding with meaningless roster members like Luke Harper, and now he's up into the main event picture, I think that's really good for him, and even though I expect him to come up short at Payback, I think he's going to be grabbing a briefcase in his future, and I'm really excited for that. So the main event was kind of the shits, but I knew it would be. We knew it was just going to be a clusterfuck schmoz at the end, just to set up the big 4-way match with all these guys fighting each other. And in the beginning of the show, I think it was the opening segment with Triple H and the Authority and everything, they actually put J&J Security in a match with Dean Ambrose, a 2-on-1 handicap match, which was actually pretty good and pretty entertaining, and Jamie Noble even grabbed the mic and cut a little miniature promo on Triple H. It was fucking hilarious. I wouldn't mind seeing Noble and Mercury get back in the ring here or there, a time or two. They're wrestling out there in their dress pants and their suits and shit, but if they decided to put the trunks on one more time and wrestle a special attraction match, they do a great job. Jamie Noble has always cracked me up on the mic, especially with that funny little southern accent he has. He's hilarious. I love hearing him talk. Has the WWE even made J&J Security shirts yet? They need to. If they did, I promise you they'd sell. But anyway, we've all seen how this storyline with the Authority and Seth Rollins and Kane and the dissension and all this shit has been progressing over the last few weeks. It looks like it's going to continue on here, and I'll get into my predictions in a minute for Payback. But you got to think, Kane is going to play a role in the outcome of this match, and eventually, they wouldn't be doing all this shit if they weren't going to turn him babyface again for the 100th time. And I'll even admit that I'm kind of warming up to Kane. I know a lot of us are sick of him, where we hate seeing him in this character. I'm such a big Kane fan as far as where he came from and his legacy and his history. To see him in this goofy-ass, character with a suit who's just a complete pussy and kisses the authorities' ass and all that shit. I've just never liked it. I thought it was crap. But give Glenn Jacobs credit. He's actually making it work. He's great on the mic, very underrated on the mic. He's a good, solid performer with a lot of experience, and, the WWE needs those guys sprinkled throughout that locker room, to, guide some of the new guys. And Kane is that guy that even though, yeah, he's old and he's lost a step, he's still in amazing shape. Kane looks great for his age. His match quality is not what it once was, but he still can put on solid matches, and he understands how to work a match. And he's just a great big name to have out there, to feud with some of these next-generation stars that the WWE has. And I think Kane, even though I shit on his character and I hate what they've done to him, I have to say in the role that he is, if you judge the role for what it is, you don't have to like the role. You can say, oh, WWE, this is a stupid angle or whatever. You at least have to admit that Glenn Jacobs is doing a good job with the character. So I am sort of doing a 180 on Kane. I'm not going to shit on him anymore because even though, like I said, not my favorite character that he's ever had, I do think that the performer, Glenn Jacobs, is doing a great job with the character, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they had something big planned for him this summer, because this coming SummerSlam 2015 will be his 20-year anniversary with the company. He showed up at SummerSlam 1995 as Isaac Yankem. So Kane has been around in the WWE for a very, very long time, and who knows, maybe, we know his retirement has been on the horizon, or at least been rumored for years now, so maybe he's gearing up for one more big final run. Because really, how many times can this guy put the mask on and take the mask off? We're already sick of that. So if they just go back to him being the Demon Kane again and putting on the mask, we're going to love it for about 2 weeks, and then it's going to suck. So whatever direction they're going in with Kane, I hope they at least make it meaningful this time, because this guy is one of the greatest WWE superstars in history. So we'll see where everything winds up, and I probably touch on Kane a little bit more in a minute when I talk about the main event of Payback and my predictions there. But as far as Monday Night Raw goes, that's basically what we saw. We had some pretty good wrestling on the show as well, including a great match between John Cena and Neville. Now, I predicted Neville to come out the week before. The week that Sami Zayn came out, I was tweeting. I'm like, no, I don't see Sami Zayn making his debut on the main roster. Isn't he still feuding with Kevin Owens in NXT? Still seems like he's got some unfinished business there. So I couldn't see him coming in to the WWE unless it was just a one-shot deal. And, of course, it was his hometown. He came out. Huge pop. It was great moment, great match. But in my mind, I was actually thinking that it was going to be Neville. Well, that happened this week on Monday Night Raw instead. So I was just a week early with my prediction. Neville comes out and did exactly what I said, he would do, and Zayn did, and came out there and gave John Cena a great fucking match and took him to the limit. Neville not only reversed John Cena's submission finisher, he also kicked out of his other finisher and came very, very close to pinning John Cena a couple of times. So just like I said, these guys coming up and surprising John Cena to challenge for the U.S. title and coming up short, they're giving him great matches. And John Cena's being incredibly gracious. It's not a burial. It's not like he's beating him in 5 seconds with the AA. He's giving him good, long, hard-fought matches. But, of course, John Cena is not going to lose these things. There will come a time in the future, probably the near future, when somebody does come out there and challenge John Cena and beat him for the title, and it's going to be a great Monday Night Raw moment, which basically means I kind of just gave away my prediction for the John Cena-Rusev match, but we'll get to that in a minute. All in all, I really enjoyed the match with John Cena and Neville, and I like what they're doing, because if you think about John Cena, the last 3 guys he's worked with has been Rusev and Sami Zayn and Neville. I think the WWE realizes with NXT and the Performance Center and all these new guys going to start infiltrating the roster, a guy like John Cena, instead of putting him in main events, just keep him slightly below that and give these guys a chance to work with them. Because think about it. Years from now when you have a Neville DVD or a Sami Zayn DVD or a documentary on their lives, they're going to talk about when they first got into the business, they had the opportunity to work with John Cena. John Cena by this point will be retired, or at least be working an extremely limited schedule. He will not be a prominent player on the roster in 10 years. So if any of these people become huge stars in the WWE and ever become the face of the company, when they look back on their career, they can say, I was in the ring with one of the greats, John Cena. And I think that's a good role at this point in time to have John Cena in, because he has been, like it or not, the face of this era. Once he's not in your face every week and quote-unquote shoved down your throat, you will stop taking for granted all the hard work he put in, and you'll probably wind up respecting him years later. You will. I promise you, you will. And I don't know about you, but I much prefer seeing Cena, in these situations rather than working the main event of WrestleMania and winning the world title 100 fucking times. I much prefer Cena in this role than doing that, because at least this U.S. title open challenge is entertaining, and it's fun and exciting, and it gives you a potential to have a surprise each and every week on Monday Night Raw. It's a great angle, and it's a great storyline, and you can see that eventually it's going to build to somebody coming out there and surprising John Cena and beating him. And I'm telling you, that's going to be a fucking moment. We also had some sad news on Monday Night Raw. I probably should have touched on this first because it's just horrifying. But Daniel Bryan, nearly 1 year to the day that he has to come out in the middle of the ring and surrender the WWE World Heavyweight title, he comes out and surrenders the Intercontinental title. He is injured again. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. WWE let him come out and cut a promo, and he was being pretty honest. You could tell he was sincere. I was hoping he was going to pull a Mark Henry and swerve us at the end, or kind of like what he did last year when you thought he was going to hang him up, and he says, I'm back and I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble or whatever. I was kind of hoping he was going to do something like that, or maybe somebody would interrupt him, because if a wrestler came out there and interrupted him and cut a promo on him and maybe injured him, I was like, okay, Daniel Bryan will be coming back. But none of that happened. It was just a promo. He left the Intercontinental title laying right there in the middle of the ring and walked out. He says he doesn't know how long he's going to be out. The doctors don't even really know what the fuck's wrong with him. And this is incredibly scary because his issues are, of course, neck related. I'm sure it's not like this is a broken ankle or busted knee that he's worrying about. This is head and neck and spinal stuff, and that is not anything you want to play with. And given Daniel Bryan's style, it's not as if this guy, works like Kevin Nash. He's out there flipping and flopping and damaging his body, flying off the top rope and landing flat on his back completely unprotected night in and night out. This guy is doing a hell of a lot of damage to his body, and guys that work his style do. And unfortunately, it's making us all very nervous as to Daniel Bryan's future. I think he could be potentially out another year. And if he does come back, I don't know if he'll come back at all. And if he does, he might have to change his style up a little bit. And it's just incredibly sad because by that point, by this point already, Daniel Bryan has already lost all of the steam and all of the momentum that he had after WrestleMania 30. He got that main event moment, my God, at that show, just so amazing. And how it was derailed so quickly is just so unfortunate and so sad. And then finally he comes back. WWE cannot put him back into the world title picture because unfortunately storylines continue whether you're injured or not, and there was really no place for Daniel Bryan in the main events once he came back. So they try to do the next best thing. They put the Intercontinental title on him. He wins it in the ladder match in the opening match of WrestleMania 31. It was a great match, great moment for him, and maybe it can keep him on the mid-card level because as John Cena as U.S. champion and him as Intercontinental champion, that did a lot for the credibility of those belts. But just like last year, the poor guy can't even get his title reign off the ground. He gets injured again, and now he's going to be out again, and he has surrendered the Intercontinental title, and we are all just hoping that Daniel Bryan will wind up being okay, but I am not that optimistic at this point. His comeback did not last very long. He's been inactive a lot in the last couple of years. And when he came back in the beginning of the year, we're only talking about 4 months here, and he's done. All I know is that it really doesn't sound good. And Daniel Bryan, you're in my thoughts, brother. Get well soon. Now, as far as what else happened on Raw, we had, confrontations, between Sheamus and Ziggler and Ryback and Bray and, and some of the other matches leading up to Payback. But one of my favorite parts of Raw is that I was so delighted to see them reunite Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. These guys should have never been broken up to begin with. I did not think that they were going to make it on the singles level. I liked the tag team. I even liked the whole Wyatt family, which makes me think if they've reunited Rowan and Harper, how about have these guys interfere in the Ryback match with Bray Wyatt at Payback and reunite the whole damn Wyatt family, and that gives Bray Wyatt a victory without completely crushing Ryback as well, and then you got yourself a rematch for the next pay-per-view. But we'll talk about predictions in a minute. But the fact that Rowan and Harper are back together, finally, good job, WWE. Why you broke them up to begin with, I have no idea, but at least they're back together now, and the tag team division is strengthening. Still not that great, but is getting better, and to have these two guys, back on the same page is going to be great. And as I briefly mentioned in the beginning of the commentary, WWE also announced on Monday Night Raw the return of the Elimination Chamber. Now, I know a lot of you who've been listening to me for many years know my thoughts on the Elimination Chamber. I hate it. I think that this thing is so fucking obnoxious, this monstrosity of hell that the WWE built. I don't know what it is about the WWE that makes them think that they have to build these giant forts. I mean, it used to be the big blow-off would be a steel cage, but no, that wasn't good enough. Then you had to have the Hell in the Cell, which I thought was about as extreme as you could ever go. And then you put a steel cage inside a Hell in the Cell. And then if that wasn't enough, they come up with this whole nother idea. Let's do a combination Hell in the Cell War Games type of deal where we put a giant cage over the whole ring and put the wrestlers in fucking pods and have them come out one at a time. And this thing looks like a spaceship. It's ridiculous, and it's so unforgiving. Every time I see a wrestler land on the steel grating on the the outside of that ring, it makes me cringe. It makes me sick that the WWE puts these guys through this unnecessary violence. These are bumps that they don't need to be taking. These matches are dumb enough as it is, but at least back in the day, they were for a number one contendership or for the world title or something like that. There was always a title belt on the line, or at least the chance to face the champion at WrestleMania or something like that. Basically, something big was on the line. Now, this is something that they are going to throw together in 2 weeks. Payback has not even taken place yet, and we already have another pay-per-view by the end of the month. Now, I was kind of reading that part of the reason WWE may have been doing this was just because it helps potential subscribers for the WWE Network. I think they're going through a free trial right now for May, perhaps, and so maybe having this thing at the end of the month will help people subscribe, starting in June. If you ask me, they should have moved the pay-per-view a couple days into June to force people to subscribe to it. I don't know. But the whole thing seems really fucking pointless, and I don't know what's going to be on the line at the Elimination Chamber. Now, we do have a vacated title. Daniel Bryan gave up the Intercontinental title on Monday Night Raw, so why not put the Intercontinental title on the line in the Elimination Chamber? Because I think an Intercontinental title contender Elimination Chamber would be fun instead of your same old main event guys. I mean, I really don't want to see Elimination Chamber with Seth Rollins and Randy Orton and Roman Reigns and Kane and Big Show. I don't want to see that shit. I'd like to see it be Ziggler and Wade Barrett and Neville and Sheamus and Stardust and people like that. So I'm hoping that that's what they do. But either way, I just don't see the point in it. I just think this is a horribly dangerous match, and I think it's just too extreme. I just think that contraption that they put around the ring and build around the ring is just too far. You could tell it went too far. Back in the day when Eric Bischoff started this, that was, 2002. The Attitude Era had really shown us a lot, and it's almost as if they ran out of ideas. So they said, let's build the most obnoxious fucking thing we can think of and have a match inside of it. The Elimination Chamber is a prime example of the WWE constantly being forced to up the ante. And finally, when they did away with it, I was so happy that we didn't have to see that stupid match again. And yes, I know some people defend the Elimination Chamber. Oh, good mic work. There were some good Elimination Chamber matches. You're right, there were a lot of them. I'm not saying that I wasn't entertained by some of these matches. I'm just saying I think the thing is pointless, and I still think you can sell pay-per-view tickets without even having to do something like this. I just think they're brutal for the guys that are in there. They're career shorteners, and it's bad enough, like I said, when it's a pay-per-view that's just going to be thrown together. There's no purpose for this other than selling WWE Network subscriptions. It's an extra pay-per-view that WWE just decided to announce 2 weeks before. I don't think they've ever done this before, other than the King of the Ring, which they also just ran on the network a few weeks back. So it's just too many shows. I don't mind the idea of WWE Network exclusives. They're just shown on the network, special events, kind of how like WCW did the Clash of Champions back in the day for free on live TV. But still, when you sandwich that stuff in between the 12 pay-per-views that we already have, it's just fucking overkill. So if I'm home, yes, of course, I will watch the Elimination Chamber, and I just hope that nobody gets hurt for this meaningless fucking match. So let's start blowing through these Payback predictions. I'm laughing my ass off because this could be brutal. You never know, maybe I'll come out to have 100% here or get most of these matches right, but I have a sickening feeling I could get a lot of them wrong. Let's start at the bottom. The kickoff match is going to be the newly formed tag team of the Minor Powers, Axelmania and Macho Mandow, taking on the Ascension. Now, we saw these two teams, I guess you'd call them, have an interaction on Monday Night Raw. Actually, it was a match between Axelmania and Macho Mandow. The Minor Powers were exploding on Monday Night Raw. The Ascension comes down and interrupts them, which causes Sandow and Axel to team up and take out the Ascension, and of course they did the funny Hogan and Savage handshake afterwards. It's pretty entertaining because I'm a guy that, has a lot of fond memories of those days in the 80s and tag teams like the Ascension and the Mega Powers and all that shit, so it was kind of a fun throwback to that and still a very fun segment, but at the same time, what the fuck are they doing with Damien Sandow here? He's already been down this road. They already drug him through the mud. Now it's time to build him back up. He finally breaks away from The Miz, comes out and cuts what I thought was a very, very heartfelt promo, thanking the fans for their support, and it's going to be a new day for him, and, his career is going to be on the uprise, and now he's going right back to doing what he was doing before. So they've decided to not start taking him seriously again, and now he's involved in these goofy-ass storylines. Now, he's still good at this, very entertaining when he imitates people, and there's a lot of things he does that's funny, but I don't want to see him turn into Santino Marella unless he wants that role. Santino wanted his role. I just read Chris Jericho's final book, Undisputed. Oh, I'm sorry, not Undisputed, Best in the World. I read it on my flight back and forth from Detroit a few days ago, finally finished it after a couple of years of putting it off, and it was fucking great. And one of my favorite chapters in the book was about Santino Marella. If you know what I'm talking about, you're probably laughing with me. If not, you haven't read the book, find it and at least read the chapter on him because it will have you in stitches. So a guy like Santino seemed to be happy in the goofy-ass role that he was in, dressing in drag and having a cobra on a sock puppet on his arm and shit like that. But I don't want to see that happen to Damien Sandow. I think he's too good of a worker, to be in a situation like that. So yes, this shit that he's doing with Axelmania is a little bit funny, but I thought he was done with that. I thought he was moving on, but I guess not. But you need a prediction, right? And why am I talking so long about a fucking kickoff match? Who cares, right? But I gotta pick Damien Sandow and Curtis Axel to win this. It looks like they are going to finish up with the complete burial of the Ascension. These guys haven't done shit since they came onto the main roster. I don't see a reason for them to win now. And on top of that, this is a kickoff match. You want to get the show started off right. The fans are going to be filing into their seats. So if you give them an entertaining segment to laugh at, that's going to get the show off on the right foot. So that's why I'm predicting Macho Mandow and Axelmania to win the kickoff match. Just announced Divas match. I believe they announced this on SmackDown, or they're going to announce it on SmackDown. So I'm sorry if I spoiled it for anyone. But the Bellas are going to be taking on Naomi and Tamina Snuka. Now, this shouldn't surprise anybody, as Tamina has recently returned. She's teamed up with Naomi. They've been attacking the Bellas on TV in the last couple of weeks, so naturally this is going to lead to a match. And at this point, I would actually have to pick Naomi and Tamina to win this match. I hate to say it. I love Nikki. I'll talk about Nikki here in a little bit, but Tamina just came back. It's a freshly formed alliance with Naomi, and Nikki, of course, is the Divas champion, and she's teamed up with her sister. It's not going to harm them to lose, and it, gets Tamina over now that she's back and all that. So I got to pick Naomi and Tamina to win. Tag team titles on the line as well. New Day defending the titles against Cesaro and Kidd. Now, here's another one. It could go either way. You never know with the WWE. They could very easily put the titles right back on Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. If that happened, I would not be disappointed. I do like them as a tag team. But the New Day, they're trying to give them a chance here. They beat Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, I think, last week on Raw. They're newly crowned tag team champions, haven't held the belts for that long. Why derail them already? Give them a little bit more of a chance, even though the fans don't seem to care, even though when the New Day basically goads the fans into chanting New Day sucks by saying New Day rocks. And I think the whole thing is a little silly, and it's cheap heat, and I don't like it, but I would like to see the fans start hating these guys a little bit more. And I'm rooting for them to be good heels, and I hope that they will be. So that's the reason why I'm picking them to retain the tag team titles, and they'll beat Tyson Kidd and Cesaro somehow, because there's 3 of them out there, by the way, so they can easily, fuck over another team. So I want to keep the belts on New Day for a little bit longer, so I'm predicting them to win. Another match that I found really hard to predict was Neville versus King Barrett. Now, of course, Neville beat Barrett at the last pay-per-view pre-show, and then Barrett beat Neville in the finals of the King of the Ring. Now, this is basically the rubber match. Now, I was originally going to pick Wade Barrett because I said to myself, he just won the King of the Ring. They obviously may be building him up a little bit, although the King of the Ring is not like it used to be. I don't think this guy is going to be getting the title shot main event at SummerSlam or anything like that, but he did win the King of the Ring, a tournament that the WWE seems to take a little bit seriously, so you would think he might be on the uprising, and maybe he can win the rubber match with Neville. But then I realized I've got too many heels picked to win in this pay-per-view. And since Wade Barrett is already the king, and Neville lost to him at the King of the Ring, also lost to John Cena on Raw, I got to think that Neville's going to beat him, or at least I'm hoping he beats him. So I'm going to predict Neville to win, even though this is one that I really think I could be wrong. I would like to see them give this kid a victory, because at least with Wade Barrett, he's still the king. He could still come out and cut promos completely full of himself and bullshit everyone into thinking he didn't even lose to Neville at Payback. Maybe get himself thrown in that Elimination Chamber match somehow, and then you forget all about the loss. And it does wonders for Neville to be able to hold a victory over a guy like that, and I like Neville. I mean, the things he does in there is so unbelievably coordinated. His shit looks so good. I don't even think he knows what a botch is. I mean, you think of guys that work reckless styles, like the Jeff Hardys and the Kofi Kingston in his younger days and stuff. When they do really crazy, outlandish, over-the-top spots where they're diving over ropes or walking the railings or doing anything that requires a lot of balance or a lot of timing or a lot of great execution, it seems like things only go well 1 out of 3 times for big spots like that where they just land it or hit it perfectly or it looks great. With this guy, Neville, he sticks his landings and hits everything perfectly. He's an absolute beast, and he's strong. He's a little guy with unbelievable agility, but he's strong as shit at the same time. He is a fun wrestler to watch. He's the next generation of Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was very high risk, and he did a lot of crazy spots, but he almost just seemed like he threw his body into things with a lot less grace and a lot less coordination than a guy like Neville does. He looks like he's doing gymnastics in there that are just turned into wrestling moves. He would have been great in the Cruiserweight division in WCW. I would have loved to see Neville take on a 1996 Rey Mysterio Jr. on Nitro. Can you imagine how great that match would be? Or put him in there with Eddie or Malenko or Jericho, which I actually think these guys might have worked a house show not long ago, or maybe they're going to. But that match could actually happen with Jericho kind of still coming back in from time to time. But could you imagine him back in the day, 20 years ago, working with some of those light heavyweights? Oh, man. So I would like to see them have Neville win one here, kind of build him back up a little bit because he did just lose 2 big matches in a row. So for that reason, I'm picking Neville to win. Sheamus versus Dolph Ziggler. Here's another one. I don't know. I got to think in this one, maybe Sheamus, because Dolph Ziggler won the Kiss Me Arse match or whatever the fuck at the last pay-per-view. So Sheamus has just returned not long ago, and he's a new character. He's a heel now. New music, new look, new attitude. You're going to have him lose twice in a row on pay-per-view to an adversary of his. So I got to think that maybe he wins this time. And again, this is just a match thrown together. Both of these guys could probably be in the Elimination Chamber or the Money in the Bank match or both. So this is a match, win, lose, or draw for either one of them. Probably isn't going to do too much to damage either guy because it doesn't fucking matter. So I guess based solely on the outcome of their last pay-per-view match, I got to go with Sheamus in this pay-per-view match. So I pick Sheamus. Ryback versus Bray Wyatt. Now, I mentioned a potential outcome to this earlier on when I was talking about Monday Night Raw, and I like my idea. Bray Wyatt feuding with Ryback is already not my favorite thing. It gives me the impression that they've taken Bray Wyatt down a notch. I mean, he worked with Taker at Mania. Now he's working with Ryback. I know the WWE likes Ryback, and I know the WWE wishes he was a main eventer, but he is not. So now he's in this feud with Bray Wyatt that completely came out of nowhere. Don't even know why Bray was targeting Ryback to begin with, probably because the WWE cannot think of anything else for him to do meaningful, so they put him with Ryback. And if this is going to be a program that could span several pay-per-views, who do you have win the first match? You can't have a guy just lose clean, because then where do you go from there? So a great way to get out of this is to have the Wyatt family completely reunite. Why not? Rowan and Harper are back together, put them together first, and then have them interfere in the Bray Wyatt-Ryback match, helping Bray Wyatt win, and this sets up your rematch and everything. So to me, it's a win-win all the way around. So how about that for a prediction? Not only am I going to predict the winner, I'm going to predict a storyline change. But I can't imagine this being a one and done. WWE doesn't do that. They never have. So these guys aren't going to go out there and have one match with one winner and then never see each other again. So the Wyatt family reuniting idea, I think, would be great because it wouldn't completely bury Ryback, because it took 3 guys to beat him. John Cena versus Rusev. Dun, dun, dun. The I Quit match for the United States Championship. This one has been hard as well, because I really think it can go both ways. I cannot imagine John Cena losing this match, but you know what? I don't want to see Rusev say I quit either. So the big angle that everybody's talking about, because of how popular Lana is getting, a lot of people are saying that maybe Rusev snaps and gets Lana and threatens harm on her and forces John Cena to give up just so he won't completely kill this woman. That would be a good way to go. But if you do that, you know what that means? It means that Rusev is the United States champion again. And I know people don't care, because as long as John Cena loses, they don't give a shit what direction the WWE goes in. But this U.S. title open challenge is fun, and you can tell it's getting over, and the WWE probably doesn't want to lose this yet. So they can either go in the direction of having Rusev force John Cena to be such the great guy that he is and say I quit just to save somebody else and put the title back on him, or they can go through, with the burial of Rusev, because one thing you got to think that will happen here is this will probably be where Lana officially does her turn, I guess. The WWE wants to turn her babyface, do more things with her. Rusev's working with Cena. You better do it now. At least now it's meaningful. It's in a program with Cena. If you wait and do this later when he's working with Fandango or something, then it's not going to be as good. So maybe have Lana do the turn somehow, in this match, which could bring upon a very frightening possibility, and that is that not only will Rusev lose this match and say I quit, that he will lose the woman as well. And nobody is going to be able to accept that as anything other than a burial, because John Cena is involved. But just take John Cena out of the equation and pretend the exact same thing happened to Rusev. It's just he's facing a different opponent. Imagine he's facing Ryback and this all happens. Does that mean Ryback buried Rusev? No, it's only a burial when John Cena does it. So I will admit that there is a distinct possibility that Rusev could come out of this pay-per-view looking very bad. He could not only lose the match, he could also say I quit, and he could lose his woman all at the same time. But like I said, to me, this all centers around the United States title, and I think John Cena holding that belt right now is better than Rusev holding it. WWE wants to sell those t-shirts, and WWE wants to have those fun U.S. title open challenges every week on Raw until they find somebody to come out and dethrone John Cena. And when that happens, you'll forget all about the Rusev feud. And then Rusev, in the meantime, if he comes out on the losing end of this and he no longer has Lana, he'll move on to something else, a little bit less meaningful, but he will not be off of TV. He'll still be right there every week working. Eventually, he'll probably turn babyface. I even said by Survivor Series a couple weeks ago, I said, I bet you by the time that pay-per-view rolls around, he'll be on a babyface team. He might then go through a small losing streak. They might put him in a tag team with somebody randomly. Maybe they can't think of anything else to do with him, and him and Cesaro form a tag team sometime in the future. Maybe they turn him into a joke like Kozlov. Whatever the fuck they do, he'll go through that cycle and eventually come back to where he will be in something meaningful again. Before we scream burial, we at least have to see the finish of the match. So I'll judge it after the match takes place. We'll see. However John Cena winds up winning this match, I'm pretty sure he is, because like I said, I've got heels picked to win almost everything else. And to me, I want to see somebody like a Kevin Owens show up on Monday Night Raw and take the title off of John Cena sometime in the future. So for that reason, I kind of want John Cena to win. Just because I think, when you look to the future and when he finally does drop that belt, it could be some pretty good shit, especially with guys like Zayn and Neville coming so close to beating him. Eventually, that guy's going to come out there and do it. So with all those factors in place and all that shit running through my mind, I got to say that John Cena does wind up winning the blow-off with Rusev somehow. Maybe they can do a Stone Cold type of deal, where it's not a complete loss for Rusev. Maybe Cena can just put Rusev in the STF, for the 5th time after 9 AAs. Maybe these guys go through a table or something like that. And maybe Rusev passes out, which means Rusev is so tough that not even John Cena and all of his great submission moves can make him say, I quit, and he passes out and the referee has no choice but to stop the match. That at least saves face for Rusev, because that's the exact same thing that happened to Stone Cold. Nobody thought any less of him when Bret Hart beat him into a bloody pulp and left him laying in a pool of his own blood, piss, and vomit right there at WrestleMania 13. He beat him unconscious. Bret Hart beat Stone Cold so hard that he lost fucking consciousness. And not one fan held that against him at all. Not one fan considered that to be a burial of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So what if John Cena does the exact same thing to Rusev? What if Rusev just passes out? John Cena wins the match. He can even come out the next night on Raw and cut a promo and actually maybe give props to Rusev. Hey, I won, but I got to hand it to you. You did not give up, and I got to respect that, or blah, blah, blah. Who knows? I doubt they'll do that, but they could. Whatever happens, prepare to be disappointed, because John Cena is probably going to win. Is that all the matches other than the main event? Did I touch on them all? Let's see. I got the Ascension and the Minor Powers, Neville Barrett, Kid Cesaro, New Day, Sheamus, Ziggler, Ryback, Bray, Cena, Rusev, the Bellas, Naomi, and Tamina. Yeah, I talk about all of them, except for the main event. Fatal 4-Way, WWE title, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose versus Randy Orton. One winner and one winner only for this thing, Seth fucking Rollins. He won the belt at WrestleMania 31 2 months ago. He's not going to lose it in a match like this. I don't see how anybody can predict anybody other than him to win. None of those other guys winning at this moment, at this pay-per-view, at this time makes any sense at all, other than Seth Rollins. I want to see his reign continue. There's too much other shit going around with the Authority and Kane and all this crap. You got to think that something's going to transpire, just like in the cage match, that's going to allow Seth to escape with the WWE title. This is the type of shit they're going to do with him. I've been saying it since day one. He needs to hold this belt, in my opinion, a minimum of until SummerSlam. Anything less than that, I think, would be a failure. You got to give Seth Rollins a little bit more of a chance than this. I think he's being a good heel. He's doing great in this role so far. I think he's a great WWE champion. He's had some amazing matches. He's lost a few. On top of that, been pinned in recent Monday Night Raws. He's having all sorts of problems with Kane, so you got to think because of that momentum, he's going to wind up coming out of this match as champion. And that's what it's all about, momentum. Is another thing I forgot to mention in the Cena-Rusev feud. We also saw on Monday night after Cena's match with Neville, Rusev came out and attacked John Cena and left him laying right there in the middle of the ring. The flag dropped down, Rusev's music was playing, and he was standing over a broken and beaten John Cena. I said to myself, fuck, that almost ensures a John Cena victory. Rusev beat the shit out of Cena, which made me think it does not bode well for Rusev's chances at Payback. And the same goes with Seth Rollins. He lost to Dean Ambrose the week before that put Dean in the match. He's got all these problems. He feels like the deck is stacked against him and everybody's out to get him. Of course he's going to find a way to come out of this match as the champion. So Seth Rollins, I'm predicting to win this match here. And here we go again with one of these pay-per-views where we just got to hope that the pay-per-view is good. A lot of these quote-unquote throwaway pay-per-views or pay-per-views that we're really just not looking that forward to, all you can hope for here is they surprise us and they turn out to be great. And the in-ring work and the execution of the finishes and all that turns out to make it a great show, and it's exciting, and the crowd is into it and all of that. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best we can hope for. And I think it has the potential to be good. I mean, I know a lot of this shit is thrown together, but when you look at the talent that's on the card here in some of these matches, there's some potential for some really good matches here, and I think there will be. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's going to be meaningless because we got to turn around and have another pay-per-view in 2 fucking weeks. So anyway, it should be interesting to see how a lot of this plays out. And like I said, I'll be up after Monday Night Raw and we'll talk about all of it. Also, I do want to mention, because a lot of people asked me, I did see the ESPN special, the WWE Behind the Curtain, the E60 show or whatever. Very good documentary, very interesting. It was filmed a couple of years ago, basically centered around 3 NXT guys, Corey Graves and Xavier Woods and Adam Rose. Which was interesting that we didn't see Adam Rose on Raw. You know, I think anybody that saw this, might start looking at him in a different light. I know I sure did. And to not even have him on the show, at least I don't think he was on the show. I was hardly paying attention, but I don't remember seeing him. It seems like they should have done something to capitalize on this. I think people might have taken notice of him and his situation. And, this could be a chance for Adam Rose to maybe break out of this fucking character that sucks on the main roster. It was great in NXT. Once they brought it up to the main roster, it is horrible. And I've never liked it. And I've criticized the shit out of it. But when you see these wrestlers in a different light and actually see who they are, you can see they're all good people. And I like some of the footage they were showing of the production meetings. In WWE, they do take into consideration a guy that they consider to be a good guy. Take Corey Graves, for example. They ran through his whole career, all things he's done, and then he had something like 4 or 5 concussions, and they could not clear him to work anymore. He was not able to be a wrestler for the WWE. But because of his hard work and because of his family, the WWE wanted to take care of him. And they said, we'll give you a chance to be an announcer. And Triple H, I'll offer you a 2-year deal. See what you're made of, put you on the announce team. It helps you make a living, support your family, because we do appreciate all the work that you put in. We saw potential in you, and we just don't want to throw you out on the street. So let's try to put you in a different role. That way you can have a paycheck for your family and your kids. And that's nice to see that. And this guy doesn't suck either. He's on the WWE pre-show every week, and he does some other things, and he's not horrible. He's actually quite good at his job. I think he might even have a knack for it. And I think it's a shame what happened to him. It's horrible that he cannot finish pursuing his dream to become a wrestler, because he was almost there. They were about to bring him up to the main roster when all this shit went down. Think of the matches he could have had with guys like CM Punk, if Punk was around or whatever. So I think it's unfortunate what happened to him, and they showed, all of the things that he had to go through and all of his injuries and stuff like that. So now that he's on the announce team and he's excelling at it, when his 2-year deal comes up here shortly, hopefully they'll re-sign him and he can stick around with WWE for years to come. Xavier Woods, same thing. Nice little piece on him as well. Of course, he's in the New Day now, but when they filmed this, he was just being thrown into the main roster and coming out as a singles competitor and doing a lot of the same things he was doing when he was in NXT, that sort of deal. And, of course, Adam Rose, they showed the Leo Kruger and all the things he did prior to that. And then WWE said the same thing. They showed the production meeting, and Triple H is like, it's just not working. A lot of people, I think it was Michael Hayes, who I hate. I think the guy's such a dick. He's like, I wouldn't pay a dime to see that guy. And plus, he's a little older. He's like 35 years old, so it's kind of make or break for him. And then finally, they flipped him into a completely different type of character. Instead of being like a heel and kind of vicious and serious, now he's this crazy party animal, British pop star kind of thing, sucking lollipops and prancing around the ring with his entourage, and it got over in NXT. Unfortunately, when he got to the WWE, it's been nothing but a joke, but he has been there week in and week out. Even if he's doing something stupid, he's still on Monday Night Raw. He's still earning a living, still earning a paycheck for his family, and he's on the main roster. If you ask me, if you're an NXT guy, no matter what you're doing, your goal is to get to the main roster. Yes, it would be nice to main event, but even if you're doing underneath shit, even if you're doing stuff that is meaningless, at least you're there. You're still a notch above NXT, which means you're a notch above in pay scale as well. And this guy does have a family to feed because his baby is sick. Wait, was it Adam Rose's or was it Corey Graves' baby that has the problem? Pretty sure it was Adam Rose. But his one of his kids has got a problem and has a feeding tube and all this shit. So he's got some things to take care of. So it's nice to see how ridiculous people are willing to make themselves look. He just kept saying, I'm doing all of this for my son. I'm doing all of this for my son. You can tell that Adam Rose character is nowhere near to who he is in real life, but he goes out there and he plays it well. And I think to see the personal lives of these guys really might help fans understand that you can't just be so cut and dry. Oh, fucking Rusev is going to be buried by John Cena. He's going to be working pre-shows and going back to NXT in 6 months, and his whole career is going to be over. Why don't you talk to Rusev and you ask him how disappointed he is with his feud with Cena? Why don't you ask Rusev if he feels like he has been buried in any way? Why don't you ask Rusev how John Cena has treated him or quote-unquote held him back, or how the creative team has completely buried his character? I think he will tell you the exact opposite. If anything, the WWE has been very, very good to a guy like Rusev. The motherfucker rolled in on a goddamn tank at WrestleMania, okay? This is not a guy that's the WWE feels like is a piece of shit. So it's just a little perspective. I think shows like this can really help, maybe some of the younger fans that, just have these really straightforward, dime a dozen type of opinions that are just very broad, and they don't really examine, what the real story is. And seeing these guys in this light, I think might have helped that. But all in all, it was a pretty good piece, and it amazes me what big fans of the WWE ESPN is. I don't know how many of you guys watch ESPN, but all their different shows on there, whether you're watching SportsCenter or Around the Horn or any show like that, there is a countless amount of WWE references on a daily basis on ESPN. And they've done more than one story on the WWE. I remember the Scott Hall one they did a few years back, and I think there's been several others as well. So ESPN and WWE are, they're starting to work together a little bit. But I really enjoyed the piece, very eye-opening. I thought it made the WWE look good because it showed how much they have their shit together. Also, speaking of ESPN and sports, people have mentioned the Deflate-Gate, the debacle with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots and Tom Brady's suspension, following the investigation into the deflating of the balls. And basically, it's been proven. They can say it's not. But yes, Tom Brady, we knew all along he was lying and full of shit. He did know what they were doing. To me, I'm not going to speak too long on this because some people might not even give a shit about football and not even care about this situation at all. And I really don't either. I don't give a shit about these balls or anything like that. But what makes me mad about it is these morons, the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, they're the Patriots. They've won countless amount of Super Bowls. They've been on the big stage just about every year for the past 10 years. They're an absolute dynasty. Why the fuck do they need to cheat? Explain to me that. It makes me so mad that a team like that feels that they need some sort of an unfair advantage. They are already probably one of the best football teams in history, with one of the best quarterbacks in history as well. I mean, it's Montana, it's Brady as far as Super Bowl rings goes. I mean, he is the fucking man. They don't have to take a backseat to anybody. They can beat anybody in the NFL on any day in any year. Why in the world would these goofs think that they need another unfair advantage? Remember a while back it was Spygate? These fuckers were spying on the Jets. Who spies on the Jets? Myself and a handful of my listeners could beat the fucking Jets. Why the hell does this team think they need to cheat like this and do all these little dirty tricks to help them gain an advantage? They should be confident in themselves. They're the fucking Patriots. They are in the running to win the Super Bowl every single year. Why the hell are they cheating? It makes no sense. And now it's damaged their legacy. And I'm glad. And I usually don't like it when we see falls from grace like this, like Tiger Woods and Lance Armstrong, these icons in their industries, being torn down because of stupid shit they did. And now it's Tom Brady, basically the face of the NFL, star football player with multiple championships, married to a supermodel. And this asshole needs to cheat. This asshole needs to deflate the balls. And look at the game that they had where all of this was discovered. It was a fucking blowout. You could have had the balls just regular and they still would have beat the shit out of the Colts. So why, when they're at home in a playoff game, a place where they never lose, against a team that they are quite frankly probably better than, why are they fucking around with the balls to give themselves an unfair advantage? They don't need to do that. And it was so silly because they would have won the game anyway. And I think that's what a lot of the people that defend Tom Brady say, oh, it's not that big a deal. They would have won anyway. You're right. They probably would have. And it would have been a blowout. They were better than the Colts on that day. No question about it, which makes me even more angry. Why fucking do it to begin with? Now you've tarnished your legacy for no reason. They probably would have won the Super Bowl with or without deflated balls. So the fact that they did this now puts a huge asterisk by everything. And it really scars Tom Brady's legacy and the legacy of the New England Patriots, because this is twice now that these fuckers have gotten caught cheating. And they got caught red-handed. They spied on the fucking Jets, and they deflated these footballs. They did it. They know it. So I think the Patriots and Tom Brady and anybody else that was involved in deflating these footballs are fucking morons. They deserve what they got, and I hope fans never look at this franchise the same way again. Now, in one small defense of Tom Brady, I will say that his suspension is twice as long as Ray Rice. So you mean to tell me that if Tom Brady would have knocked out Giselle in an elevator, he would have been back by week 3? Shit, he would have been better off just beating his wife. Instead, he deflated the footballs and then fucking lied about it, and he got popped for 4 games. So good. Fuck you, Tom Brady. Fuck you, New England Patriots. And lastly, some of you did want me to comment on my meeting with Nikki Bella earlier on this week at the airport. I was laughing my ass off. I put a picture of her up on Twitter. It's just a shot from behind because I was actually boarding the plane and had no time to even approach her. I had to be at the San Diego airport butt balls early in the morning. My flight left at 6 a.m., so I'm there extremely early. I'm sitting there by myself, and I'm just about to board because when I checked in, they actually had a first-class upgrade for like $70. So I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll take it. I'll take the big chair. chair. That's dirt cheap. So as I'm sitting there waiting, I just kind of look up from my phone and I see Nikki Bella walking towards me. And I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking Nikki. Which this took place on Wednesday morning, which is interesting because Raw was in Montreal on Monday. That means Nikki probably flew all the way home to San Diego for Tuesday and then got right up and left again at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. So she came all the way across the country just to be home for one day. It gives you an idea how crazy these wrestlers' schedules are. But as she's walking towards me, I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, how cool would it be if I could get a picture with her? Because I've met countless amounts of wrestlers in the past, but this has been in the distant past. And I have very, very few pictures. I have a few, but not many, because back then, you know, it's not like we had our iPhones with us, you know, when I was meeting Vader at Waffle House and shit like that. You know, I've met so many wrestlers over the years, but I have so few pictures. So I thought it would be really cool. I'm like, fuck, I wonder what kind of mood she's in. I've met her before. She's actually came into where I worked a few years back, and I think that was when her and Brie were on their hiatus from WWE. They weren't even working there, and she came in, and I actually talked to her for a little while. So I had an icebreaker. I could say that we've met before and blah, 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 and I thought it would be so funny if I could get a picture of her, like, kissing me on the cheek, because you guys know on Twitter I joke that we're together and we're a couple and all that shit. So if there was a picture of her and I at the airport together going on vacation, I thought it would made for a hilarious tweet. I don't even know if she would have been into that. I certainly have a code with approaching wrestlers. If I ever see somebody or meet somebody famous, which I happen to see a lot of them down here in Southern California, and I actually work on the same block that Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Carson Palmer, all from the NFL, all own homes, and I see them a lot, and I just have this code of just not approaching them, not being that fan, not being that guy that wants an autograph or wants a picture. I'm usually very, very, very respectful. But I was actually getting up the courage to approach her when I realized my plane had already started boarding. So I kind of thought about it, and I walked over to where she was, and she was at the counter getting food, and I was like, you know what, I got to get on the plane, fuck it. I'm just going to snap a picture of her from behind and tweet that, and it's a shame that I didn't have a few more minutes, because I might have actually gone up to her and maybe seen if she would be at all interested in taking a picture. But she looked great. She was wearing this hot little pink dress, no bra at all, makeup completely done. She must have gotten up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make herself look like that. I mean, she looked like she was heading out to do commentary on Monday Night Raw. I mean, if I was some hot chick, or if I was a recognizable chick, I would be wearing sweatpants and a long sleeve shirt and a hat and sunglasses, and I wouldn't want anybody to recognize me. Nikki seemed like she wanted people to recognize her. She looked amazing. I could see her nipples poking right through the dress. It was fucking great. So I apologize for not getting the greatest picture ever to put on Twitter. I thought that would have been really funny. But it was kind of cool that I did see her there. I mean, we live in the same town, so hopefully I will be running into her again. But definitely a cool little story, and those of you who saw me put that on Twitter, I know were cracking up. So that is it. I am out of here. You guys enjoy Payback on Sunday. Like I said, I'll do my best to keep an eye on it on the WWE Network on my phone. I'll check Twitter from time to time, so feel free to send me notifications or messages, or let me know what's going on if anything crazy happens that I might have missed. And I fully expect to be up live tweeting for the Monday Night Raw after Payback, and I'll have a commentary up on everything around Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So again, thank you for listening. I'll talk to you very soon. Until next time, peace.